This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
Welcome to Couch Potatoes, episode 73. I'm your host, Lane, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ari. Ari is dying from sickness. So it's that time of year again when people are throwing out their nominations for Game of the Year. We're no stranger to this trend. We did this same sort of show last year. So this week's topic is going to be exactly that. What we think the best games of 2015 were. Obviously, there were tons of new releases throughout the year, but we've narrowed down our short lists and thought we'd share them with you guys. With our varied tastes, I think we'll probably end up covering a lot of ground, because looking at our lists, we only have a couple that are in common with each other. But first, as usual, let's talk about what we've been playing lately.
Just want to say that's pretty weird that we're both like really different in our choices.
I think that's a good thing. It shows that we're not carbon copies.
The same one's better though. Totally better.
The what one?
My list is better.
Oh. I don't know about that.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
So what have you been playing this week?
Nothing.
Because you're sick.
No, I had real life smack me around where the deadline for my assignment was due, and I hadn't done anything yet. And got handing it in meant like the course would kind of finish.
Procrastination is... Yeah, I do the same thing. I just actually had to work on some stuff earlier today. We had to pick a company that was on the like top 100 best places to work, and then like break it down based on like organizational behavior. I picked Riot Games because obviously fanboy, but I don't know if we're actually going to be, because it's a group project. Everyone had to like suggest a company and then provide that research. So I'm still kind of waiting on everybody else to make their suggestions. We'll see what we end up writing.
It's good because there's a lot of information about the company.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. I had to come up with, I think I threw out like 500 words in my prep, but it was mostly doing the research that took the time. So you didn't play anything at all? Nothing?
A little bit of Eve, just like getting my skills training, keeping training, that's the other thing. A little bit of mining, more money, but that's it. Oh, I've kept up with the dailies on Nuclear Throne and Mini Metro. They're kind of fun.
That Metro game has dailies?
Yep.
Really? That seemed like a long-term game, not like short sessions.
No, it's definitely a short session game. Like, everything runs from, like, say, 10 to 20 minutes.
Oh.
So it's kind of perfect for it. And it's because it always gives you a score about how many passengers you've moved, so it's a perfect way to, compare against other people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I am terrible at that game compared to other people, it seems.
What about Nuclear Throne?
I score at, like, top 30%, but I'm still terrible at Nuclear Throne, too. I haven't got past that jetpack boss, that when he lands just like...
Little Hunter?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bitch. I have beaten him, but he is definitely the hardest hurdle on the way to the throne. Because then after that level, there's another like transitional level, kind of like the sewers, and then there's the final like laboratory level, and then you get to the throne, and the throne is this huge boss. I've never beaten him. I've gotten to him a few times, but never beaten him. And then supposedly you can loop the game, so you start over from the beginning. And then apparently, if you do that, I think twice, then it turns into, quote, hard mode, which I can't even imagine at this point. And I guess the loops can be infinite. But like the highest I've seen is like loop 2 or loop 3 on the leaderboards on the dailies. Either way, that's still insane. Those are people that have played it a lot. But if you look at the store page and you can see the reviews and see how many hours some of those people have played, it's like, wow, yeah. No wonder you can do that. You've put a lot of time into this.
Yep. It's a fun game, though. I still enjoy it.
I'm just bummed that the co-op is local only.
I know, that would have been cool. I'm just bummed that a lot of those bullet hell games, they have, like, only local co-op. You need a couple with, like, actual co-op.
Yeah, because local's fine, because you are limited to where you're stuck on the same screen. So it probably would be a little easier to coordinate sitting right next to each other, aside from the fact that, it's just as easy with Skype and a headset. So I don't see why you couldn't do that over the internet. So that's it.
That's it.
Okay. I've played kind of more of just the same, so I don't have a lot to talk about either. I've been playing the crew. I hit level 25, 26, I think, as far as overall account level goes. And at each 10 levels, you open up a new spec that you can buy for the cars that you have. So, like, for instance, when you start off the game and you buy your first car, it's called full stock. And then when you upgrade it at level 10, you can get sport spec, which makes it, like, a little bit faster, performs a little bit better. When you hit 20, you get performance spec, which is even better, obviously. And then there's other specs as you go on. But, so I just opened that up, and I had bought a BRZ, which is made by Subaru. It's a little sports car. I had bought that earlier in my playthrough, and then that one actually had the performance spec available for it, so you buy it, and it kind of, all it does is it's like you have the same car, but when it's full stock, it's the way the car looks if you were to buy it at the store or a car lot. Then when you go sports spec, it throws on a different spoiler, different bumpers and whatnot, and then it changes a little bit more when you go to performance spec. It kind of gives it more of like a wide body kit and stuff like that. So, I mean, it really doesn't affect too much. It's just your car's level goes up and it performs a little bit better as far as like acceleration, speed, handling, braking, all that shit. I've been following the main quest like storyline, basically, that takes you from point to point throughout the overall world map. So I've ended up in Miami at this point, and yeah, it's been pretty cool. I still like it.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. And I know sometimes you need a racing game.
Yeah, I hadn't had one for a long time. The last racing game that I played was like Gran Turismo 5 on PS3, like 5 years ago. So I had been kind of craving that racing experience, and it's cool because of the fact that there are other people around playing, and you can see them on the map, and you can join up with them and do different things. But I still wouldn't really consider it an MMO, though it does have a lot of those types of like systems, I guess you could say. I think it's cool. If you're a racing fan or you like Need for Speed and stuff like that, you would probably enjoy it. Also have been playing Fallout 4 and just progressing a little bit here and there. I haven't been playing it for huge chunks of time like I was initially. I think I'm close to 40 hours in, which I think is probably low compared to most people we know that are playing it. But have been progressing through the main story. But basically what I've been doing is, like, at the beginning I did a lot of the side quests and just explored. And then I kind of got bored with that, so I went down some of the story path. And then jumped back into doing some of the other random things that I picked up along the way, and then went back to the story and yada yada. So I'm trying to experience like everything in one playthrough, because then once I finish the game and have done all of the what I want to see and experience, then I plan on going back, starting over, and downloading like every mod that sounds good and applying them all. And I was looking at a list of the mods yesterday. They have some crazy shit in there. Like you can craft ammo, so that would never be a problem for you anymore. Different types of like skins and different what's it called, texture packs and stuff. They've added a lot of different things. Fallout, the radio, they've added in like 100 something stations for the radio, so that there's different lore appropriate things to listen to. I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff there, so I want to try that out. They've made it to where you can actually put like robots in your settlements, and then I know that you can use some of the console commands to just like spawn crazy shit. So I was thinking, you could make some epic battle at your base, try and defend it. There's tons of replayability there.
Yeah, I need to finish that game too. I need to actually start the story. I still left it.
Yeah, I found that if you just do the Minuteman missions and like the Brotherhood missions, they're just endlessly repeatable. So at a certain point, you're going to start getting repeats, and then it's like, well, fuck that, I'm going to do something else. But then you can actually do further, storyline with the Minutemen that pushes you for. I don't want to spoil anything, so, but basically you can do more for them. It's more than just those repeatable quests. It's like the storyline for the Minutemen, and then there's a storyline for the Brotherhood, and there's a couple other factions that exist that you can do things with, and the storyline just kind of pushes it, in the direction that they want you to go, but you can still do your whole branch off and do whatever you want. So I don't know. I still think that's probably my game of the year, but we'll talk more about that later.
Way to get a spoiler. Loser.
Snowdown started in League of Legends. It's their seasonal event, and with it came the a featured game mode, the Legend of the Poro King, which is the same one they did last Christmas time. And it's basically just an ARAM, but they added in these, you can throw the little poros, and if they hit someone, then you can, like, teleport to that person. And then they also added, once you've made 10 hits with those poros, your team, once either team hits 10 of them, then the actual Poro King spawns, and it's this huge Poro that drops down and then helps you siege. It's, basically the same old shit, but that's about the only other thing I've been playing.
Awesome.
Alright, so for the discussion this week, we are talking about our favorite games from 2015. We did have, or I put down some guidelines to pick these games, and it just needed to have been released or completed within the 2015 calendar year. It can include early access titles, expansions, free-to-play games, whatever. And then just that you should have played it sufficiently to make commentary, which I'm pretty sure that we got that covered. So
I'll start at number 10. I actually got mine in order.
I was just going to ask if you put them in an order.
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
My number 10 is Concrete Jungle. I really like this game. It's like a card puzzle game based around, say, real estate, where you're a certain type of person. You get cards that come to you automatically, and then you use those to put down, like, a certain structure on the board that might do positive effects around it, negative effects, or maybe collect points. And it's through those mechanics that you kind of going through this whole labyrinth of different puzzles and mechanics and stuff. And a lot of PvP against, like, the AI as well, who's actually pretty decent to play against. And just competing for space and competing for numbers and slowly, like, matching up your pieces together to get the highest numbers and that kind of stuff. It's like a new age Tetris. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think we talked about that earlier in the year when you first picked it up. I remember thinking that it was basically like another SimCity type game, and then you had said that it plays really differently.
Yes, definitely.
When you say Tetris, I'm like, yes, I want that. But then all the other stuff sounds weird, so...
Well, it's like a grid, and, the bottom grid is obviously going to be removed first, and the top grid is removed last. And once a grid fills up completely with, like, buildings, that's when it gets removed. Or if you hit the certain point marker, that's when it goes away too. So you're actually trying to work, like top down in a certain way. So you get a lot of points at once, and you get a lot of bonus points for doing, like, rows in a row, like, in a time, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the first one will get its points, and then the next one gets points, and it goes away, and then you, like, chain effect all these little levels and stuff, and you get extra points because of it. So it's really, like, puzzle-minded how you play stuff, how you separate your points around that area, how you put your buildings, and I don't know, just how you chain it together to get the most points possible. It's a really good game, but I think I liked it the most because it was a completely different approach to, like, puzzle gaming. Like, I've never, ever played anything like this. It's brilliant like that. It's its own specific thing. Like, a lot of games do card mechanics, a lot of games do puzzles, but they didn't really combine them like this. So it's really cool.
Yeah, you can definitely come up with a lot of different games that kind of borrow their inspiration from other games. So it's kind of like a completely unique idea, is what you're saying? Yeah,
but they did this and then made it their own thing. Like, it's not just appropriating a few mechanics and, like, we're a puzzle game, but we have some cards, you know what I mean? It's its own thing now. So, no, they did a really good job. God bless indie games.
Okay, well, my number 10 is an early access game called Super Mutant Alien Assault. And I've talked about it before.
See, they shouldn't count. It's early access. It's not released.
But when it releases, it will still say that it released this year. Will it not?
I don't know.
Okay, yes. Well, it's complete enough now, in my opinion, that they could release it as is, and it would still be just as good as it is, Like, I don't see where it's the same. I have one other one that's in early access on my list, and I would say the same for it. But Anyway, it's my list, damn it.
Hey, you made fun of my last list for having too many of these.
Whatever.
Remember last year I had lots of early access games? Like, they don't count.
I don't remember that.
Fuck you.
I do not remember that at all. So anyway, Super Mutant Alien Assault. It's a game I talked about earlier in the year when I picked it up a couple months ago. I don't think it's going to be in early access for much longer because it does feel like a complete game already. All they're really doing is like little tweaks and balances, basically. It's most comparable to the game called Super Crate Box, which was a lot like the original Mario Brothers, things like that. It's basically just a little arena. You run around and kill stuff. Each round will have a random goal, so it's either survive, which just means kill everything, or you have to collect these little capsules and put them in the engine so that the spaceship will move. There's another variant of that that's like this big ball thing that you put, and it makes you move as well. And then there's another mode where there's these two like pillars that get pressurized, and you have to like release the pressure when they're going, and if you don't, it like hurts you. And then the enemies are randomized. There's 3 planets. Each time you're on a planet, each round will be a different layout. You'll get different guns. You'll get different power-ups. There's a lot of different layers there, but essentially the gameplay boils down to just avoiding, kind of jumping around, killing whatever's in your way, then getting to the end of each map or planet and fighting a boss, which is also randomized. Then there's several difficulty levels, yada yada. So it's a lot like Nuclear Throne, other roguelikes, that type of thing, though you do have a lot of randomization that takes place within each map. Basically, if you've never played Super Crate Box, that's free to play. You can go on Steam, you can get it, you can try it out. If you like it, this is like that times 30, and it's cool. It's got like 16-bit-ish graphics. It's a really fun game, and it's really cool as far as being able to just jump in, jump out. It has that, play for 5 minutes, feel like you did something, because there's an overall kind of account progression as you go through and beat levels. Each time you beat a level, that counts. It'll say, when you're dead, and the entry or the exit screen will tell you, like, hey, you need 4 more badges or whatever they call them to unlock this next thing. And then some of the things you unlock, you can actually use to customize your character at the beginning of a run, so that way, instead of having to rely on the RNG, you can actually set it up to where you start off with this type of gun, and you start off with this power-up, and yada yada. So it's got a lot of replayability, and like I said, it is in early access, but it feels like a complete game now, and I don't think that they're adding in too much more. It's just basically tweaking it and getting it ready for release.
Sounds cool.
Yes.
Looks a little bit like that Towerfall game, too.
Kind of.
Towerfall meets Nuclear Throne.
Yeah, I mean, it basically is a Super Crate Box clone, but they just added a bunch to it. But Super Crate Box itself is kind of a clone of several other games that I've played, so it's got that arcade feel, but it's fun. So what's your number 9?
Drumroll, Don't Starve Together. The base game came out last year, but Don't Starve Together was one of this year's releases, and I had a lot of fun with it. Just like actually putting those mechanics into a multiplayer game. That was a lot of fun, just like working with people, growing a base together, and then having your friend burn your base down.
On purpose?
No accident. They had that like Annie character who like catches fire randomly, and they caught fire on one of my like berry bushes, and that just spread. I won't name any Dune names.
I'm thinking that it was probably on purpose.
Probably. But no, I actually really, really enjoyed it. I didn't play as much as I really wanted to either, because you got to get people together and get a server, and you want to all play at the same time kind of stuff. But I know, it makes Don't Starve even better, which is a feat in its own. Like, what am I trying to say? I don't know. I'm sick. Help me, my brain's not working.
Isn't there because they had an expansion, and then that Giants one, and then they put out Don't Starve Together, and now I heard that there's a new one.
Stranded. Whatever it's called.
Shipwrecked, some shit, yeah.
Shipwrecked, that's it. There's no Wilson character, 1 out of 10.
That's just adding in new bits to the already existing world, so I assume you would still be able to play that part co-op as well?
No, Shipwrecked is kind of its own area and its own thing. I think.
Well, that would be dumb of them to add in a co-op mode and then not allow you to go into the new areas.
I don't know. Well, you don't really travel to the new area in Shipwrecked. It's just that's where you start now. That's the game world.
Right. Okay, but I don't know much about the game.
Reign of Kings was the only real expansion. This one's more of a standalone package. Does that make sense?
Oh, my understanding was that it was new DLC.
Yeah, but it's standalone. It doesn't add to the world. It's just its own world. That makes sense.
That's kind of dumb. They should have added it in as part of the world.
Kind of dumb.
Whatever.
But yeah, Don't Starve Together. Awesome game. Need to play more of it.
Sweet. My number 9 is Darkest Dungeon, also in early access, and has seen quite a few updates this year. They added in the whole cove area, and I think there's one more area that they need to add in before the game is, completely done. But even as it stood when they first released it, you could play it from start to finish, basically. I mean, they didn't have the one area in or the two areas, but you could still get your feel for the game. And hell, I couldn't get through what was there. I never finished any of the areas that were there because the stress levels were ridiculous. The combat was difficult. The RNG was punishing. There was just so much that went into there. And not to mention if you didn't have an optimal group set up, or, integral parts of your group were injured or on stress relief, so you had to worry about, bringing in newbies and whatnot. I still think that it's a great game. It stood alone on its own merits as it was. Like I said, they did add in the cove area, and there's supposed to be one last area. They've continuously added in new characters and other bits that help add some variety to the game. Supposedly, also they have kind of toned down the stress and the negative consequences of things that happen in dungeons, so you can push a little farther.
Insane.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
You get like a carry-on effect, like one person would go insane, and then they'd make everyone else quickly insane. But they did add it now though, where there's like the second level of stress, where if they go past that into the next level, then they die of stress.
Right, from a heart attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a little more punishing when it first came out than it is now. I played it when they announced the Cove came out, so probably a month or two ago. I played it a bit more, and it's still definitely difficult, but it's less so than it was. But yeah, it just has all the elements that I enjoy in a roguelike, but then added a lot of RPG depth and having, so many different facets to worry about. It's a cool game. I just hope that they get it finished and pushed out to, a 1.0 release soon, so that way, I can actually try and play it all the way through, because I have a habit of, kind of letting early access games sit until they're done or close to it. But I still put it up there as being one of the better games from the year.
I think I played it last year, and it wasn't even like a complete game then. It was like 2 levels, and that was it. But it was an amazing game, so I would love to try it again. I think I'll wait till it's finished as well.
Yeah. It's still one of the better experiences coming out of the roguelike field.
Definitely.
So, moving on, number 8.
Number 8, drumroll. Vermintide.
You got it that low?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a great game. Like, I really enjoyed it, but I don't know. The other games are even better. I played a lot of really good games.
Okay.
Like, 2015 was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I didn't play many AAA games, but everything else coming out was awesome. So yeah, Vermintide, kill those little furry watermelons, watch them explode in showers of bloody chunks. It's awesome.
Yes.
It's kind of the best kind of wave mode that it could be.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they haven't done something like that, like an endless mode. I mean, that may come because they are talking about adding in
I don't think it would
areas.
work though. Or maybe it would, but I generally like the wave mode with an objective. You know what I mean? Because then that's guiding your play, and it's something to work towards continuously. I know what you're saying, just like kill as many rats as you can before you take
like
them out.
that well level where you had to guard the wells, and it was just that for pretty much the entirety of the level, and then you just escape. They could do that endlessly, just endless waves. Keeps coming, or they could create a whole new map just for an endless mode and make it kind of separate from the story-ish kind of mode that they got going on, and just have it to where it was just endless, and then they come in waves. Or they could make it to where you just have to survive 10 waves, but they get increasingly more difficult. I've seen it done in a lot of other games.
I do think it'd be pretty cool because then you can slowly get better with your gear as well. The more gear you get, the more waves you can do.
Right, and then there could be a leaderboard.
Get a little bit of gear from it as well, depending on how many waves you do.
Right.
That'd be cool. Yeah, you're right. We need a wave mode.
Endless survival.
I'm really looking forward to the next expansion, though. Like,
yes,
a new area, new enemies, that kind of stuff. Like, I would really look forward to it. Because, like, even though it was good, it still feels a bit raw and unpolished in areas. Like, certain mechanics and certain types of enemies, and just the melee is a little bit off at times. And I think with another expansion, they will really nail down that. You know what I mean? Get it perfected.
Yeah, they're still doing balancing here and there. And the recent DLC, Sigmar's Blessing, that they added in that shrine and a higher tier of items that you can get. And the shrine kind of makes it to where the grind isn't quite so bad because you can RNG your way into some better stuff, like more specific stuff, rather than just relying on RNG completely. But they are talking about, Chaos and Undead being further.
I can't wait for that.
I just hope that they don't go the direction of, say, take the same exact map, but now you can choose which type of enemy you find.
No, they said different areas.
I would hope that they would add in, either a different city being assaulted by another race, or if not another city, just expand upon the map that they have and have it, be different areas.
Because they already replay through the maps with, like, your different levels of difficulty. So going through them again would just be a little stupid.
That would be a mistake. It
would be okay if they took one of the maps and you, like, just using a part of that map, like you're walking through it, if that makes sense.
To get to the next place, yeah.
To get to another area in that area. I don't know. So you're retreading some of the same ground, but you're maybe going through a different gate or jumping over a different barricade, that kind of stuff. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, the map itself is big enough still that they could add new points of interest. So you could have something like that where you start off in one area and then kind of move into the next. That would work. They've also talked about potentially adding new heroes to play, which would be a nice thing, because even though they did get a good variety there, I still think that there's room for perhaps a healing class or something like that.
Well, I think new classes would really cut down on, when you want to join it as a specific character and then that got knocked down, or a certain type of play style. Like, everyone wants to be the ranger, so it would make sense to have another, like, kind of bow class, if that makes sense.
Well, if not that, just a more of a variety, because the only way to get around that as it is now is to host the game. Because if you host, then you're automatically whatever it is, and people have to fill it in.
They've got a huge amount of, like, lore there to grasp from, so I think they'll be fine.
And for the price point, I mean, $30 for a
exactly.
nearly AAA title is good.
Well, this is my complaint about, all these AAA multiplayer games. Like, Vermintide can go for $30 and be a great game. Why the fuck are you charging $60? And by the way, that is $90 in Australia.
Ouch. Yeah, I was reading somewhere about that people are. I don't remember what our website it was, but it was a debate over whether or not multiplayer only games should be $60, and that because the accepted price point of $60 is okay with, like, Black Ops, because it provides a campaign
as well,
multiplayer and zombies. So there's several game modes that make it a complete package. If it's just the multiplayer by itself, $60.
I think $40 would be the upper range for me.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's only if it's a really, really polished, huge experience. You know what I mean? But, like, what game was it? Battlefront. Like, you're charging $60 plus, like, a $50 season pack, wasn't it?
Yep.
For Australians, that's like that's $200 probably.
Yeah.
For a fucking multiplayer game.
Yep. Yeah. So if these guys can do it, a small little indie team from, like, Norway or something, they're over there somewhere. If they could make it for $30, I mean, I don't see why a AAA couldn't. But that's a whole separate discussion.
Indeed.
Number 8 for me was Tales from the Borderlands, and I've kind of started to lose my love for Telltale games because they are kind of the same thing over and over again. But
I told you.
But Tales from the Borderlands was really well done. It may have just been because it was
Did look like one of
Borderlands.
the better ones. And I think it was the lore. They were able to capture their own style. You know what I mean? Their very eccentric storytelling style. It suited Borderlands.
It did. And they did some different things in there with the active time stuff that you had to do, particularly in the last episode. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but there's a pretty awesome scene where you get to control a big thing, and it's cool. But again, I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't played it. Generally, it's the same sort of experience. It was 5 episodes. They were released every couple of months from each other. It told a storyline from start to finish, but it did have a lot of twists and turns, and it felt like your choices were a little more meaningful in that some of the characters, I mean, I guess it was pretty much the same. You know, some characters would make it through to the end and some wouldn't, depending on choices you made, things like that. But comparing it to the other game that they had released this year, the Game of Thrones, that one had 6 episodes, and I enjoyed it to begin with, but towards the end it just was a buggy, irritating mess, and they kind of, they left the storyline hanging open because they've already announced they're making a season 2 of it, but I kind of think I might be done with the Telltale thing just because it's kind of been the same thing over and over again.
Like, I was playing through another game on my list, and they just did the adventure mechanics so much better. With both meaningful choices and just interacting and moving around and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see where they could do something.
And polish. Telltale really needs to polish their shit.
That's one thing about Tales from the Borderlands that I'll give them credit for. It was the most polished of all the games that they've made that I've played. It worked, and it didn't have as many stuttering issues or things like that. Part of the limitation for me is that I've played all of them on PS3 rather than PC, but I have heard that the PC versions aren't much better. Either way, it was, for a narrative that you really don't have much impact on, you just get to play through an experience, it was a good story, and that's all I could ask for. Number 7 for you.
It is Fallout 4. Yes, I have it this far down.
I'm disappointed.
Screw you, man. Screw you. I've put in something like 60 hours already. And that's insane, really. And I've enjoyed it, but there's really not as much in it that, like, really hooks you and really grabs you or is really memorable. You know what I mean? Like, exploring's fun where, you know, random legendary pops up. You've got to do that huff and puff for a little while. But, like, the overall experience, it's just like a step above bland, if you know what I mean. It's enough to get you keep going, but not enough to really stick with you afterwards.
I couldn't disagree more.
Whatever.
But I put Vermintide and Fallout higher on my list, so...
You like mind-numbing grind. No, and they did a lot of things really well, like the shooting mechanics in Fallout 4 are excellent now. I actually really enjoyed the shooting mechanics, and I haven't really enjoyed the other games ones, so that's excellent. The world and just exploration around it, great. Characters and story, not their strong point. But I really kind of missed that choices mattered, if that makes sense. Like, they've got the interplay between the factions there, but it's not like, say, New Vegas or 3 where you're pitting people against each other. You can switch sides occasionally if you really want to. You know what I mean? Like, it's really not that.
I think there is more of that going on towards the end of the storyline, because I've gotten to some points where it is kind of more that way, but I have still not completed the story either, so I don't think that we can make that comparison just yet.
Yeah, I guess not.
But, I mean, just based on a mechanical and, overall viewpoint of the game and its systems, I would agree that it's not the best game ever made, but it is really well done and better than most of the other Fallout games, in my opinion.
In parts.
Okay, number 7 for me was Star Wars Battlefront. And the only reason I put it on my list is because, well, I don't like Battlefield games. At all. At all. Like, my biggest complaint with Battlefield is you spawn, and then you run across a map, you get to where the action is, you get shot by a sniper, and then you respawn far away from the map, or from the battle, and then you have to run all the way back. And it's that over and over and over again. There's something about having a huge open area to fight in that can be cool, but can also be a hindrance. And obviously the running back and forth, wasting lots of time. When your game session is comprised of 75% running to the battle, 10% being dead, and the other 15% actually combating other enemies, it just seems like you're doing mostly just running around. It's annoying. However, in Battlefront, it's just I don't know if they made the maps a little bit smaller, or if it's the variety of gameplay, or if it's just because it's Star Wars. But I enjoyed it. I don't own the game, so I haven't spent as much time in it as I would like. But my buddy that has a PS4 has it, and we've played quite a bit of it. Did some of the survival missions where you have to survive, a certain amount of waves before you've actually, completed the level. And then played quite a bit of the multiplayer, several of the different game modes. There's a lot of variety there, but the biggest downfall, and the reason why I put it lower on the list, is because of the fact that it costs $60 for a multiplayer-only experience, and from a lot of what I've read, the population isn't doing so well already, and it's only been out for like a month, just because, people get bored of playing the same thing over and over again. So eventually, obviously, multiplayer is going to die, outside of the fact that they have a $50, season pass. So there's going to be more expansions, more maps, more things to do. When it is a complete package, and they've released all of that stuff, and eventually release that Game of the Year edition that has everything included, it will definitely be worth, some money at that point, and it'll have a lot more replayability. But it's just, I don't know that their business model is really the best. But, if you like Star Wars and you like shooting shit, it's fun. It definitely has some good moments. It's a pretty game. It runs smoothly. I don't have a lot to complain about there. It's just the fact that it's multiplayer only kind of limits it.
I have nothing to add because I haven't played it. Just random rage at their pricing. Anyway.
Yeah. So, what's number 6 for you?
Ori and the Blind Forest. This game is beautiful. I absolutely adored it. Just the painterly style, the level design, everything was excellent about its design. This was one of the better platforming games in recent time. It really was. It had some issues, like certain pacing and mechanical issues that irritated me a little bit. But overall, it's a game that I wanted to finish. I enjoyed getting through the puzzle. I enjoyed, mastering the mechanics behind movement. It was a great platformer. I would say if you like platformers, go for it. If you don't, it's probably going to be on the difficult side. But I generally liked that it had that challenge there. I don't get many puzzle games with that challenge. So, no, excellent.
All right. I have not played that one either. So,
Come on, it's beautiful. Have you seen pictures?
Probably. I tend to ignore platformers because it's been there, done that a billion times.
Yeah, you get that, but it's just, I don't know. They polished it so that formula enough that it became a really good experience. Every moment was great. And I actually, while at first it's a large open map annoyed me, by the end I was actually really enjoying that it was this huge map that you were going around. And it wasn't just going between specific levels. You had this huge map to explore. You could go back to certain areas. Yeah, except no loading zones. But yeah, huge area. You're going back to certain areas to get certain extra points, abilities, that kind of stuff. So, no, it was really well designed. Really polished. Excellent. And the story, I teared up a little bit.
Well, that's good. At least it had a good story. Number 6 for me was the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. And yes, I realize that those games are old, but that released this year, and it's a update for PS4, so anybody who hadn't experienced Uncharted to that point could play through all 3 campaigns. The only negative I could see from that was that they didn't add any multiplayer, which the first game did not have it, but 2 and 3 did. Apparently they're still supporting multiplayer for Uncharted 3, but you can only play that on PS3, I believe, so that's kind of backwards. But this is basically just a lead up to Uncharted 4, which multiplayer betas have been going on here recently, and that game is slated to release next year. I love the story of Uncharted. It's fun. It's got a lot of action. There's puzzles. There's jumping around, killing shit. It's got everything that you would ever want from a third-person shooter. And I had never played the original. I missed it somehow. I ended up jumping onto the bandwagon with Uncharted 2. So being able to go back and play through the first one and have it be a little bit more graphically updated was kind of cool to be able to experience that storyline. But it's a great story, and if you haven't been able to check those out, I would recommend getting it because it's, one big package. Get the whole deal at once.
No, I do like the Uncharted games.
I think it's worth the price. I mean, especially if you could get it, like if you don't have a PS4 yet, they were selling a bundle with it. So I mean, you already get the game with the system, so it's kind of worth it. I mean, it's $60 for all three of them. That's a little pricey, but it will be, priced down for the holidays, I'm sure. If not, it'll be on sale sooner or later, especially once Uncharted 4 comes out. So you could eventually have, the whole collection on one system. That's a good thing. So, number 5.
Number 5 is Satellite Rain. I like my Cyberpunk. It's awesome. This was basically the Syndicate remake that everybody wanted. Not the stupid first-person shooter. This. It's got good, team management systems, progression around certain types of classes of your people. You got gearing, you're getting the new weapons, you're researching stuff. And it's all in this remarkably open world that gives you a lot of choices about how to actually complete missions, break into areas, steal stuff. There's a lot of options around that. It's really, really fun. I loved it.
And you said that you like it better than Shadowrun.
Yes, insanely. But then I like more open world exploration type of games where it's my decisions, my choices, whereas Shadowrun's more, this is an interesting story, follow along. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a little more linear. They did add, depending on what class you were playing, there were different ways you could, go about finishing missions. Like, i.e., if you were the hacker class, so you could, go into cyberspace and do different things. Or if you were, what was the name of that had the little robots? Shit, I can't even remember. Engineer or something like that.
No,
anyway,
something runner, but yeah.
Yeah, if you had the little robots, you could sometimes use them to access different areas and stuff. But it was more like, say, and a loose comparison, like the way Fallout 4, like you have different skills. So when you come to a lock, you either have the skill to pick it or not. So it didn't really change the story. It just maybe allowed you to access a new area or do something a little bit differently. It's definitely more linear. I haven't played Satellite Rain, but I watched you play it a little bit, and I've seen some other videos, and it looks like a good game. I definitely would be interested in trying it. I just didn't get around to it this year.
I just really enjoyed it. Not just that, but, the mechanics of play. Going around, moving my team, fighting people, using my skills effectively, like... Every now and then one of their soldiers would start calling for backup, and you either had to focus, fire them down, or maybe interrupt them. So then it was like, oh shit, which one of my guys still has their, ability off cooldown to either interrupt this guy or kill him outright? Like my sword guy, run in, slash, dead. Well, that kind of stuff. And then later on it was like hacking robots, which was awesome. And then I got to pilot those robots around and kill lots of people. Amazing.
Wasn't that one, it was more like real-time strategy than turn-based, wasn't it?
Real time. And just, I don't know, going through a base and like you're watching the actual pathing of the enemies. Okay, I've got to go here, and you hide behind there and you wait for your next move, run to the next section, you hack this area, you get in. And then all of a sudden you're spotted, and all this like mobs start coming at you, you start getting this massive firefight. You have to decide whether you're going to run for it or keep on going. I don't know, just great emergent gameplay.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to have to check that one out eventually.
And it's a Brisbane game.
Oh, so it's from the homeland.
It is from the homeland, from the home city.
That's cool.
Yep.
An added plus.
Exactly.
Number 5 for me was Ironcast. And it's a game that probably flew under a lot of people's radars. I talked about it when I first bought it, but it's an indie game. It's
steampunk strategy, right?
Well, it's got the steampunk feel in that there are mechs, and it's kind of got an old Victorian era kind of world. But then it's a match 3 game in that there are, if you've ever played Puzzle Quest or a game like Puzzle Quest, you will probably love this game because you'll start off the game. You can pick which pilot that you're going to use and which mech you're going to use. Initially, there's only a couple choices, but eventually, because it's got that overall count progression like faster than light, say, doing certain things or at least getting up to a certain level will open new pilots that have different skill abilities, and then new mechs that you can pilot that have differing, durability and different weapon systems, things like that. And then as you progress through the game, you can also find blueprints to build new weapons and things like that. So you start off with one of those things, and then it shows you a world map, and you basically have, I think it's 5 or 6 days before the boss gets to, because it's like I said, it's Victorian, but I think it takes place in England. So it shows you the map, and there's various points of interest that you can go to, and you pick whichever particular mission that you want to go on, and you do that mission, and that constitutes as a day. Then once each day has gone by, you've done so many rounds and survived, then the big boss comes, and dependent on what you've done throughout those missions that you got to get to the end, you do a certain amount of damage to the boss. So, like, say there'll be like a situation where it's like you get a choice. You can either choose to fight the enemy Iron Cast, or you can choose to fight this tank thing that's bringing or train thing that's bringing like a bunch of soldiers. So if you choose to fight that eliminates some of the soldiers in the final like conflict. So it like effectively does damage to the last boss. So like when I got to the last boss the first time, we'll just say it had like 2,500 health. It got knocked down to 2,000. So because of the actions that I took. So then eventually, if you beat the boss, something happens. I don't know. I haven't beaten it yet. It's rather tough. But when you start off on a mission, you have your 2 Iron Casts. You'll be fighting against one, and you have various different types of gems that you can match. So like one will be for coolant, one will be for movement, one will be for bullets. There's another one for repairing. So then you can target their systems and attack them. So like once you've gotten enough bullets, you can use attacks. Once you've gotten enough movement, you can actually make your Iron Cast move. That makes it evade shots better. There's shielding. There's a bunch of different facets there. So it has the RPG elements, but then it has to match 3, but then it also has the roguelike thing, because if you die, you have to start over. But it has that global experience bar, so even if you die, you're still technically making progress. Once you've opened up some of the better pilots and some of the better Iron Casts, theoretically it's easier to beat the game. But yeah, that's basically the game in a nutshell. I loved it. I still love it. Play it regularly. It's a good game.
Awesome.
And I think it was only like $15, so I mean it's not
Just you saying
expensive.
the word mechs has me interested anyway.
Pretty much. And they're not like mechs like you would think in like traditional like mech warrior terms. They're like steampunk, so they look like a big iron tub with like a steam stack coming off the top of it, and then some guns on the side. It's pretty crazy.
I'm looking at some of the stuff now, and it reminds me of Hawken, and I love their design to like mechs. Just like finding random parts and sticking them together to make something.
Basically. What's number 4?
Rocket League.
Blech.
Yeah, shut your face. This
Soccer's
game was
lame.
amazing. I had so much fun. I really had so much fun playing with it. I think this was the funnest game of the year.
No.
I'm not saying most engaging,
No.
but I'm saying moment-to-moment fun.
No.
You know what I mean? Yes,
No.
totally. Like watching your ball sail towards the goal and then someone comes out of nowhere and knocks it away. Or making that absolutely perfect save where it's going straight for your goal and you twist and move in a way that you didn't think was possible and you stop it. Or just like chasing this ball down while other people are rocketing around you. It's just moment-to-moment fun bottled up and served to you on a platter.
I've seen a lot of cool videos, I will admit. It does look like fun. It's fun to watch. It is not fun to play, in my opinion.
Oh, it's insanely fun to play.
I didn't have fun with it. I only got to try it for a short amount of time, so maybe I didn't put enough time in to really
Yeah, because you're a filthy
it.
fucking casual.
When it comes to games that I know I'm not going to like, sure.
Oh, whatever.
But, yeah, no.
I even found that...
I hate soccer, so...
I don't like sport games either, but this was amazing. I even found a few friends to play with and a group that I joined to like get into private matches and that kind of stuff. It's amazing. I love this game. I hope it does well in the esports scene. I really does. And like the patching has been really good throughout the year. Free patches as well as some decent DLC. That's reasonably cheap. And just constantly supporting this game. And it's fun. It's fun.
Yay.
Yo, fun.
Yay, it's fun. Yay.
Fun. The funnest game of the year, Rocket League.
Funnest is a word.
Funniest. Yep, it's a word now.
Okay, that's cool. Number 4 for me was the new Call of Duty, which I would have never thought I would have put a Call of Duty on this list, but in my opinion, it was the best Call of Duty in years, probably 5+ years since there's been a good Call of Duty game. Because I actually boycotted the series years ago. Like, the last time I bought one was, like, the third Modern Warfare, and was just like, no, I'm done with this. This is the same shit every time, blah, blah, blah. It is still the same shit every time, but they've done just enough to iterate it to where it's got a lot going for it. First of all, the campaign, you can now play with 4-player co-op. That's cool. It used to always be the one thing that you did by yourself when you played Call of Duty. Now you don't have to. The campaign itself isn't the greatest storyline. It's nothing like that. But just being able to play it with your friends is an added bonus. The multiplayer, still similar, but they added in specialists, so there are essentially classes, which has become the new like key thing for shooters these days, which with, you know, Battleborn and Overwatch and all these other games that are coming out that are first-person shooters that have classes. So, I mean, it's the same sort of principle, but you can switch them on the fly. Not in matches, but, you know, in between matches. Each different specialist has a couple different abilities they can use. It just adds an extra level of depth to the gameplay. They also made it to where you have jump packs, so you can jump and float and wall run and do a few other things that weren't available in the series before. Overall, I think Call of Duty's multiplayer has been the best part of it for years. Because even though I stopped buying them, if I went to someone's house who had the newest version, I would sit and play the multiplayer with them, because it's still fun. It always will be fun, if you like that sort of thing. The biggest selling point for me, though, being Black Ops and a Treyarch version of Call of Duty, is that they provide zombies. And zombies is such a fun mode. It's got that whole co-op survive as many waves as you can. But each time that they come out with these new maps, they've added in new little gimmicks, different things that you have to accomplish, Easter eggs, all kinds of different goodies. So overall, I think this is the best Call of Duty experience that you could have this year and for many years. I don't know how they're going to top it.
The best Call of Duty experience you could have.
Well, it's not for everyone. But, I mean, there's people that are raving about other first-person shooters out there that I've played and think are garbage. So it goes both ways. What's number 3 on your list?
3. Life is Strange. It finished up this year, and oh my god. Like, I actually played through from episode 3 to 5 this year. But it is one of the most emotionally involving games I've ever played. I literally was bawling my eyes out through so much of it. So much of it made me angry, like really, really rage-worthy angry. So much of it made me like terrified at times of these characters. Like, I don't know how they pulled off such an emotionally involving game. Like, I'm not one to really get that emotionally involved in games. Like, it's the one medium that doesn't grab me like that. But this just wrapped itself around my heart and kept on pulling, and I couldn't stop crying.
Now, I was asking somebody about it because they were raving about this, and it wasn't you, it was someone else that had said something really good about it. And I was like, okay, so like, how does it compare to this? How does it compare to that? Yada yada. And basically, the impression I get out of it is that, like, I mean, I don't want to sound like a jerk or sexist or whatever, but I'm going to. It seems like a game that would appeal to women more than men.
I'm not saying that's sexist. I'm saying probably. That's not a bad thing.
Okay. Well, because it just seems like that type of game where
no, like,
you're talking about it being all emotional and shit, and I'm just like,
we look at the styles of movies that women enjoy, and like the styles of books as well. We like ones with more involved characters and stories around those characters. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that's for everyone, like, and even the majority, probably the majority maybe, but even though we still like those things, we still like, blowing shit up occasionally too.
Well, right. I'm not saying that those
But I
things
also
are
think
mutually
Life is Strange
exclusive.
is an experience that not just women should play, everyone should play. It's like this is what emotional feelings are in games. Like, yes, we've all played through Mass Effect, and spoiler alert, with Moradin sacrificing himself and all those other things, like Garrus as well, and those hit you a little bit in the feels. This is like I said, just tugging at your heart constantly. But it's not just sadness. Like, a lot of the games try and just overload sadness on you occasionally. Like, oh, look at this person, they're fucking dead now. That kind of stuff. This gets you angry, like really angry at times. This gets you sad and terrified and worried and all those other feelings. It's just so emotionally involving. And I'm not sure how they pulled it off either. Probably just the focus on these characters in the story. And I'll be honest, some of the story behind it, some of the actual, how the people actually communicate, some of the times it's not that great. It's like how a 30-year-old thinks young people talk. But regardless, it still hooks you. And I don't know, it's great.
Well, when I was saying that it was made for women or would appeal more to women, I wasn't saying that as a slight. I was just saying that from what I have seen of it and stuff, there was just
men and
parts
women
of it that didn't.
Products, different types of experiences. That's a given.
It was just something that didn't seem like it would appeal to me.
Just as we enjoy explosive antics, I think you guys would enjoy a little emotional involvement as well.
I don't have a problem with that. I like good storytelling that grabs you and makes you care about people and things and whatever. Like, I enjoy that. So, I mean, you telling me that makes me want to play that game. But when I actually looked at the game, I was like, this doesn't look like it would interest me. It was kind of like Gone Home. Like, everybody and their mother thought that was the greatest game ever.
No, it's a bit more than Gone Home.
I was like, meh.
Because this one has, proper goals and objectives throughout. But in terms with the story, I don't want to spoil it. It keeps leading you on with this story mainly, and it's an engaging story, but it's like an action story in certain aspects, not just this is a walking, talking simulator, It's choices, it's mechanics involved, it's making a path for yourself, it's engaging with these characters, and some of the last episode I was a bit partial on, but it's still an experience that will stay with me for a long time. A long, long time. I
guess I'll just have to try it someday and see for myself.
I should have had this one as number 2. Damn it.
It's too late for that. Number 3 for me is an expansion, although I just barely got the game. It's the Wild Run expansion for The Crew. The only reason I put it on here is because, well, I wanted to talk about The Crew as being one of my favorite games of the year, but being as we had that criteria that it needed to release this year, I'm just going to cite the expansion. The expansion.
You even made these criteria, and you're the one breaking them.
I'm not breaking it. I'm talking about the expansion.
It's so terrible.
The expansion released 2 months ago, or a month ago.
Terrible.
So in the expansion, from what I've read, the original version when it came out a year ago, a little over a year ago, it had a lot of wonky controls, issues with the physics, issues with connectivity, a lot of different issues. And supposedly the Wild Run expansion fixed a lot of that. Since I didn't pick up the game until after the expansion released, I'm getting it, just the second-hand experience, but at the same time, I have nothing to complain about. I think the physics work well, the steering is good, all the controls work intuitively. However, I am using a controller, so that might help alleviate some of that, because I can't imagine playing a racing game with a keyboard. The Wild Run expansion added in some new events, new vehicle types, like monster trucks and drag race cars, drifting, motorcycles, added in new points of interest on the map, added in a bunch of different stuff, but essentially it's still just additional stuff that went with the original game and its original systems. Overall, I enjoy the game. The best comparison I can make it to is like Need for Speed Underground, which came out 10, 15 years ago, was one of my favorite racing games of all time. This feels a lot like it. It has that underground racing feel. There's police in it that will chase you if you cause too much damage, things like that. There's a variety of different racing modes on dirt, street. You can. And the map of the game is the entirety of the United States. I mean, it's obviously scaled to size because you can drive from one end of the continent to the other in probably like an hour at most. But it's still big enough that it feels like a huge living world. And then there's players everywhere that you can interact with, join crews, do PvP. There's a lot of depth there, but it's still at its core just a racing game, and you can experience it solo, from what I've seen, without really having to feel that you've missed out on something because of not having a crew to play with. If you like racing games, I'd recommend it. It's probably one of the best ones on the market at the moment. The only major downfall is that it's an Ubisoft title, so they have that whole Uplay thing that you have to play it, which is kind of annoying. But other than that, it's pretty cool.
And the best will always be Burnout Paradise, just so you know.
It takes a lot of stuff from Burnout Paradise. Like if I had to, like it takes like Need for Speed fundamental ideas from Need for Speed. I'd say even some bits from like Gran Turismo and Burnout Paradise, because it has like these little in Burnout Paradise when you'd be running around and like there'd be just a random ramp and you could fly off of it and it would give you like some kind of reward for performing a crazy stunt. They added that in with the Wild Run as well, where there's all these different stunt things everywhere, all over the map, and each one of them will reward you with different parts for your car and yada yada, depending on your performance. So it's got, if you liked that game, you would like this one too, honestly. Number two,
City Skylines. Yes, I really, really like management games and city management games. And I put it probably so high up just to stick it to EA and their shitty SimCity one. But I don't know, this was everything I want in a sim, building game now. The regioning systems were great. The traffic system was really, really in-depth. The building design and aesthetic of the game was great too. And it just had all the mechanics in a SimCity like building game, polished and perfect. Like it just did it. Like everything was in its place where it had to be, and completed and done and perfect. And so the experience was great. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I have no idea why I haven't gone back since. I need to play some more of this. Seriously.
It's a lot like SimCity though, right? That one is.
The earlier ones, yeah.
So it's like just start from scratch and build a city?
Yep. All that. Design certain regions, get your traffic networks going, build up, your commercial and industrial and residential areas, and fulfill the needs of who's coming and who's going and all that kind of stuff. Get your traffic moving around your city appropriately, build new highways, demolish areas, build underground tunnels and bridges and power networks and all that kind of stuff. And little specific specialty buildings like, fire service and police and education and just all that. And as you get a better area, the town and area grows around it, gets more appealing and worth more and all that kind of stuff. It is a very well designed, polished and complete sim game, god game.
Sounds good.
It is good.
I'm not really a big fan of those types, but that one definitely got a lot of positive feedback over the.
And it was only like $30 when it released.
That's
when the SimCity shit was asking for $60.
Yeah. And that seems to be the pattern. Indie games put out something for half price, and it's way better. Number 2 for me was Vermintide. Had I not played Fallout 4, it would probably be number 1, because honestly, it's probably the most fun I've had with a game in years. Especially just you and me playing it co-op, being able to rant and rave over voice.
We have to get back into it occasionally.
Yeah, we do. I like I said, I checked it back out when the Sigmar's Blessing DLC came out a couple weeks ago. Just to see what the shrine was like, and actually just doing that, I got, because of a lot of the stuff that I had been either saving or had already disenchanted for the little gems, I used a lot of that and actually upgraded stuff on every single character. Also, something that you may not have heard about, if you own the game and you go on Steam there's a official group for Vermintide now. They actually made an announcement, so you can just go to like the Vermintide news section. And it'll show you there. You can click on the link and go to the group. If you join the group on Steam, they'll actually give you 2 hats. One of them is for the soldier guy that you like to play. The other one is for the dwarf. So, unfortunately, I didn't get a hat for my guy. But the hats don't do anything except for change the appearance, so it's not really anything but fluff. But 2 free hats for nothing. That's pretty cool. So, I joined the group, got the hats, checked them out in game. Yeah, they look kind of cool. The dwarf is just like a variant on the helmet, and then the soldiers guy's got like several big feather things coming out of it that look kind of cool. But yeah, like since they've added in the one DLC for free, they've said already that they're planning on adding, several free and paid DLCs. So I'm assuming that the next one will probably be something that we're gonna have to pay for. That might add something completely new. I'm not sure. They're also saying that soon, I think it was supposed to be part of this, or maybe it was right after this DLC. They were saying that they were going to add in a couple different modes, and I can't remember what they are off the top of my head right now. But there's supposed to be some more stuff coming for free. But then from there, we're not sure. But either way, I mean, just the game, the combat's visceral. It's fun. It's playing with randoms, not as fun, because sometimes it feels like you're carrying them or they're carrying you, and it's not as good as it could be. But it seems like they've done a little bit of tweaking with some of the patches that they've come out since release that have adjusted perhaps the difficulty, because I was playing on hard with just some random people and we were shredding stuff up. But from what I read, like the Nightmare and Cataclysm difficulties are like ridiculously hard, to the point where if your mechanics aren't on point with being able to block and dodge and things like that, you will die very quickly. I would like to push up through some of those ranks and get through some of the harder stuff. I've been working on hard. I think I got 5 or 6 maps left to go to get through all the hard difficulty. And then from there, you obviously would move forward. The only problem is that once you've done those levels so many times, it does get a little boring. So you got to find some way to keep yourself motivated. I think that future DLCs will help with that as well.
Yeah, just more content.
Yeah. Okay. Big drum roll. Number 1.
Come on, you already know this one. I haven't included it yet. Witcher 3.
I would probably have that on my list too, except for I haven't played it yet.
Loser.
Whatever.
I know, it's that whole debate, like, which is better, Witcher 3 or Fallout 4? And I think that really depends on the person. Like I said, like, Witcher 3 felt like more of a world, you know what I mean? More interesting characters, lore, and just more engaging setting, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that comes down to whether or not you prefer guns to fantasy.
I do like guns, though.
Well,
You're talking to me here.
That's the thing between the two, is you really can't compare them because of the fact that one is a post-apocalyptic simulator and
no,
the
you
other
can compare
is...
them on themes. That's easily enough, but you can't really compare them on mechanics. Fallout 4 is more about exploration. You know what I mean? Uncovering a large world. You know, making your own steps, figuring out your own place. Witcher 3 is a tightly designed but well-made story. You know, but in an open world.
Well, I guess because we're already here, I'll just say my number 1 was Fallout 4.
Yep.
Reason being, I never played Witcher 3, so I can't make the comparisons per se. You have played both of them, so you can better than I could. From what I've seen of Witcher 3, it looks awesome.
Gamer.
However, I think that there are parts of it that are probably worse, and there's parts that are better. I don't think you could say that either is the better game. I think that they're both excellent games, even though I haven't even played The Witcher 3.
I know, I'll say which one's the better game. I have. Witcher 3. It's my number 1. Fallout 4 was only 7.
Yes, well, that's because you're wrong, but moving on.
No, like, Witcher 3 just had some of the better story and lore I've ever seen in the game. Like, each of the side quests and the people you meet and the story behind them were just really insanely interesting. And some of them were even, like, a little bit moving as well. Like, you know, the wife that wondering why, like, where her husband is and what's with these fucking corpses and stuff like that. Turns out her husband was, you know, a werewolf now. And he had his own, like, lover that was involved as well, and the werewolf kills her, and just all these other little mechanics and story elements around just that one little side quest. It's just, I know, and come on, It's insanely pretty. It's far, far prettier than Fallout 4. And I've given props to Fallout 4 for improving its look compared to other, its other games. But Witcher 3, gorgeous. Everything about it was gorgeous. And it just had a great, patch cycle and support from its developer. Come on. All this free updates, great expansions, reasonable pricing strategies, an available DRM free version, no early access pre-order shenanigans. This was the game that showed AAA how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah. Well, Fallout 4 I don't think has... I mean, they had pre-order shit with the Pip-Boy and whatnot, but outside of that, they're...
Oh, that's a physical
normal.
thing. That's okay.
Well, and then their price point for the season pass being only $30 is reasonable.
Yeah.
Because I assume you'll probably get 3 or 4 big chunks of content coming out of that. For Witcher 3, I'm basically just waiting for the full Ultimate Edition to come out now, because at this point, if I was to buy the game, even if I got it on sale for $20 or $30, I still would have to spend a bunch of money to get all the DLCs. Or maybe not a bunch, because I know a lot of them were free, but there's at least a couple that you have to pay for. So I figured it's just better just to wait until there's a Ultimate
They've got the
Edition.
season pass you can buy.
Yeah, I guess that would be probably about the same then. Either way, it's still been on my list to play.
I would say pick it up on the Christmas sales.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be when it would be best to get. But yeah, since I never played that one, Fallout 4 is my favorite game of the year. Because it grabbed me. I mean, there's very few games that I'll buy and will sit and play for 6 or 7 hours straight, and I did that with that game. Vermintide's about the only other game that I played for big
I did
chunks
that
of time.
too, and it grabbed me like that, but yeah. I expressed that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's a to each their own kind of thing.
The comparison with me is like Fallout 4, I would finish playing, and then I was fine doing something else. I wouldn't think about it. Witcher 3, I would finish playing after a few hours, and I would still think about that game until I got to pick it up again, I would still think about where I was in the story, what I'd done, the world, all that kind of stuff. It grabs you, it engages you, it immerses you.
Well, I was the same way with Skyrim. The Skyrim engaged me like that, and that's who made Fallout. So I think I'm just more partial to the fantasy universe than I am sci-fi or steampunk or any of those other types of RPG universes. So I think I would probably be with you in thinking that The Witcher 3 was better than Fallout 4, just based on it being fantasy rather than realistic. However, I didn't play it, so I don't have that. But I know it would probably be on my list. I just couldn't put it here because I didn't play it.
It's funny, I've read and heard so many different opinions about the combat too. Some people find it too easy, some people find it too hard, some people find it boring, and some people find it badly designed or well designed. It's really a mixed bag of opinions.
That's been happening the entirety of that series, though, because everything I've read about the first Witcher was that the combat was wonky. The second Witcher,
but
same thing.
that's everyone thinks that. Everyone says the combat was weird. Even people that like The Witcher 1 and 2 say that the combat is bad.
And that's one of the main things that you engage in. So if combat's bad, that's part of the reason why I didn't like Fallout 3, and I didn't like New Vegas as much because the combat wasn't nearly as good. And they corrected that. That's what makes Fallout 4 so good to me. Because if it was, just more of the same the way it was in 3, I wouldn't have liked it.
In correcting that and making combat better and more enjoyable, they've removed some of the other enjoyable parts, like how certain other parts of your build are important, like your charisma or your intelligence. Those elements were just as important in previous games. Now it feels like combat is more of the be-all, end-all focus.
I think that depends. I think you can kind of approach it however you want still, because I have talked to people that have done full charisma builds and were mostly trying to utilize those conversational elements when they do arise, being able to convince someone to stop doing what they're doing. But I get what you're saying, because I remember in New Vegas there was a point where I just walked up to what would have been a long drawn out fight and just talked to the guy and used my high charisma to talk my way out of it and didn't have to fight at all. And that doesn't seem to be as present in Fallout 4, so I get what you're saying there. But at the same time, I don't think that took away from the overall experience because, again,
I mean, it's
a
also
game
like
about exploration and stuff. Like
the
it's not
conversation
really-
choices you're allowed as well. Like before, it's like, oh, you have higher intelligence, so you get a new choice to pick from. Now it's just like yes, no, sarcastic. You know?
Well, they do have those, but I think it only pops up if you do have a high enough of whatever skill it is. Because I've seen some
there's only
conversations where it
charisma
pops
choices,
up. Oh, is that it?
and it's all random. Like even if you have like 10 charisma, you can still fail.
Yeah. So I mean, every game's going to have its pros and cons. For me, the pros outweigh the cons in Fallout 4.
Like it sounds like I'm being really harsh on Fallout 4, but I still really enjoyed it. You know,
I know you did.
I played a lot of games, and it's still in my top 10.
We dedicated a whole show to it, so obviously we were gushing at the time.
Yep.
But like anything else, once you've had that new experience, then you're on to the next. And even though you enjoyed the shit out of Witcher 3, you know, if there was another game that came along that you thought was better, you know, Witcher 3 would just go into the backlog and you wouldn't care anymore. So, I mean, that's going to happen with every game.
Maybe, but I'm still looking forward to the next expansion. But I'd still look forward to a Fallout 4 expansion, so whatever.
Yeah, definitely. That is something I am ready for. So that's our top 10s. I do have a few honorable mentions. I think you do too.
Yep.
So, just really briefly, the honorable mentions that I had that didn't quite make the list were Basement, which was a little management game, but you're a drug lord cooking up various drugs
Yeah, I
in your
remember you
basement.
talking about that.
It's still in early access, so it's not really a fully completed game, and what they have there isn't really complete enough to say that it's even close to being done, but they do have a workable framework. It seems interesting enough. I enjoy the concept. I look forward to seeing more of it. Another one is Helldivers. That came out on PS3, was supposed to be a PlayStation exclusive, and now all of a sudden they're putting it on Steam, so I'm kind of
On Steam.
I'm kind of butthurt about that. Like, I wish that I would have gotten it on Steam. I mean, the only benefit of having gotten it on PlayStation was that it was cross-buy, so you got it for PS3, PS4, yada yada. So, I mean, eventually if I get a PS4, I can play it again, or play it, you know, on a more current system, but I still would have preferred to have it on Steam. It's from the same creators as Magicka, and it has a lot of that same
And
feel
do you
to
remember
it.
this old game called Alien Swarm?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. And I loved Alien Swarm.
It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like Diablo meets sci-fi, because it's like you drop down, there's 4-person co-op, you guys drop down, there's a mission, you know, you have to go to this point and capture it, or grab this thing and take it over here, or
And of course it
just
has
kill
friendly
shit.
fire because, you know,
Yes.
Magicka
Yes.
devs.
Yes. So you can accidentally blow each other up and things like that. And then basically you're just supposed to run through and, you know, complete whatever the mission is, and then that gets applied to this global battle. And the global battle is between the humans on Super Earth and like 3 factions like bugs, robots, and some other kind of alien. And you can fight in each one of those different areas, and then as you complete missions, that goes towards the war effort. Eventually you push to their homeworld. If you destroy their homeworld, that faction is gone. Then you have to do so for the other 3 factions, and then once the entirety of the game world has been conquered by the humans, then the game resets itself and starts from scratch. There's been, last time I checked, there had already been like something like 10 wars or something like that. So it's an ongoing thing. Then there's, you know, progression in that, you know, you go up levels, you get different items and different shit that you can use, blah blah blah. It's a cool game. I think if you have a PC, and getting it on Steam would probably be the better of the choices. You have a couple, don't you?
I do. Mini Metro, playing at the moment. Love it. Beautiful, simple puzzle game where you're connecting little train stations and moving around passengers and all that kind of stuff. It looks like one of those, you know, subway maps. That's how it's designed. Bright coloured lines that you make up. But I don't know. Just it's brilliant simplicity, if that makes sense. You know, simple mechanics done absolutely perfect. And it's great. I fully recommend it if you like puzzle games. And Heroes of the Storm for actually making me like a MOBA.
Blech.
Blech. It's
Worst
'cause you're
MOBA
a-
on the market.
Like I said, it's baby's first MOBA. And I needed that.
Now, I'll give it credit for introducing people that wouldn't normally play a MOBA to MOBAs, but I hope that the majority of those people will eventually move on to MOBAs.
You're funny.
I can't help it. That game sucks.
I have been thinking about playing League of Legends now that I have an actual computer. Because last time we tried, I was on my laptop, and it would like freeze every time something's happening on the screen for like 2-3 seconds. And that's enough that you're going to die.
Yeah. Well, they're making some changes. That was one of my other honorable mentions. Was just the new season patch for League. I know that's not something that you would put on top 10 lists, so that's why I didn't include it. But the changes that they're making to the way queues work and things like that, with the ranked queue being more like the team builder. There's ways around some of the toxicity that you would experience normally, because you can kind of make optimal builds before the game starts, type thing. So yeah, I think that they're trying to do something to make it more accessible for the average person that's never played it.
Accessible as a nuclear friggin' crater hole.
Whatever, noob.
Hey, I'm just going to put my foot in. That's exactly what it's like.
The only other honorable mention that I put on here was the new StarCraft 2 expansion, but I haven't actually played it. I just have heard so many good things about it. I know that if it was a game that I did play, I probably would have put it on my top 10, but I didn't, so I won't. But yeah, it looks good. I like StarCraft 2 still. I just haven't played it in a while. So that's our top 10 lists for the year. If you have any questions, comments, or think that our lists suck, you can let us know in the comments. Give us some feedback.
And
Twitter,
just write down that I'm totally right about Witcher 3. Thanks. Bye.
Real quick, for the remainder of the year, we are not doing a show next week because our normal release schedule has it coming out on Christmas Day, which I know everyone is going to be too busy to listen to a podcast that day, so we're not going to bother.
Well, maybe they would, and it's like that whole like stuck with the family thing where you need like a break.
I mean, I guess it could be good for that, but we're probably going to be doing things with our families as well, so I just figured take the week off for the holiday, and then following that, the next one would be around New Year's. We'll have to play that one by ear, see what we're doing. If we're not too busy, we'll get it out. If not, the second week of January will be when we return. So we'll see you then.
Peace out, bitches!
Happy 2015, and happy holidays. That does it for this week's edition of Couch Potatoes. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you'll continue to join us. Couch Potatoes can be found on Twitter at Couch Potatoes, and on Anook at anook.com/blog/couch-potatoes. Music credits, other places you can find us, and pertinent links discussed on the show can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening. We're going to get back to gaming now, so we'll see you next week.